Hi guys, hope you all doing well. Welcome back to our channel. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the onboarding process for Windows Server 2019 that you should follow to make sure your servers get onboarded to MDE. Now, if you're watching the series from the beginning, in the last video, we have discussed about the onboarding process of Windows 10 devices with MDM. In our case, it was Microsoft Intune, whereas in this video, we will be talking about all the basic prerequisites that you have to keep in mind before you go ahead and start onboarding Windows Server 2019 to MDE. What is the typical workflow model that you should follow? What are the registry entries that you can go ahead and check before onboarding the machine and after onboarding the machine? And what are the event logs that you can check for performing basic troubleshooting? Now, before I go ahead and show you the actual onboarding end-to-end, I would like to address two statements here and which are exceptionally important. This is exceptionally important for you to know in terms of the behavior related to Windows Server 2019. Now, when we talk about Windows Server 2019, Windows Defender AV component or feature is already enabled on the server, okay? But what I have seen in the implementations wherein a different product is getting used, likewise CrowdStrike or McAfee or Symantec, okay? I have seen in a couple of environments that there is a practice of disabling the actual AV component of the server itself. So if in your environment you have this kind of a setting enabled, then my recommendation is to go ahead and enable the AV component on Windows Server 2019 first, and then go ahead and onboard the machine to MDE. Okay, so according to me, 2019 servers specifically will not be onboarded if Windows Defender AV component is not installed on that particular machine. So how to install it? Just go to the roles section, go to the feature section, and from there you can install Windows Defender AV. Install that first and then go ahead and onboard your machine. Okay. Now, there is also one more very common practice that I have seen, in different kind of environments wherein Defender AV, the actual component of Windows OS itself, is actually disabled with the help of GPO. Okay. So if you're trying to onboard some set of servers, and if you have a GPO in place, which is disabling the actual AV component of the machine, make sure you unscope your server from that particular GPO so that you can go ahead and actually get that machine onboarded. So long story cut short, in order for a Windows Server 2019 to get onboarded to MDE, so that you can get the right set of telemetry and right set of information on MDE console itself, make sure Windows Defender AV component is installed and the WinDefend service is running on that particular machine. The next very important aspect that you have to keep in mind is related to updates, to security patches. Whichever server you're trying to onboard, make sure it is completely patched with all the latest security updates. So what you see right now on the right is the snip of my server, which I will show you getting onboarded to MDE itself. And when I set up that VM, these were all the updates which were pending. So I got all of them installed, and then I have tried onboarding that machine, which I will be showing you next in a couple of minutes. Okay. Now, for all obvious reasons, I always recommend to go ahead and check the vendor specific article for network requirements, because this is something which is very dynamic. And when it comes to Microsoft, it gets updated very frequently. So I will be sharing the link in the description section of, again, what all the required URLs that have to be whitelisted so that your machine can get onboarded. Now, this is something which I've already covered in one of my previous video, but just to reiterate the same message, or just to give you a quick recap, these are all services which are used by the agent, by the Sense agent itself when it comes to Windows Server 2019. Because in 2019, 2022, and Windows 10 and Windows 11, this Sense agent is baked into the OS itself, right? So these are the different processes which are used. Now let me show you the entire workflow that you can use to make sure your Windows Server 2019 machine gets onboarded to MDE. So now let's talk about the workflow end to end, wherein the first step is to go ahead and verify whether the AV service is installed and running on the machine which we are trying to onboard. So what you see now is one of my server, which I will be onboarding, and the host name is server-onboard-2019. This is the machine which I'm going to onboard. The first command that I'm using to go ahead and check the state of the service is sc-query win-defend, and as you can see, the state is running. That means on this machine, Defender AV component is installed and the service is also running. Now, why am I saying this? Because I can use one more command, which is sc-qc win-defend, and it will show you the service name as well. Okay. So on this particular machine, Windows Defender AV component is installed and the service is also running. Okay. If you want to verify the same, what you can do is you can go to add roles and features section. Okay, it's taking a couple of minutes. Let me go ahead and click again now. Yeah, add roles and features, and I'll click on next, and I'll go to the feature section itself, and over there I'll scroll down and check for Windows Defender AV. And as you can see, this particular service or component is installed on this machine, which means that this machine can be onboarded, and it will be onboarded. Okay. The next step is to go ahead and check the registries on the machine before onboarding. Okay. So for that, I'm going to open registry editor itself, and then I'll go to the folder named as HKLM, which is local machine. Then I'll go to software, and then I'll go to Microsoft, and here I'll scroll down and I'll search for Windows Advanced Threat Protection and Windows Defender. Okay. Now these two folders are actually the keys wherein multiple registries will be added once the machine is onboarded. Okay. If I talk about this Windows Defender folder itself, it is going to have all the details related to AV settings. Whereas once the machine is onboarded, you'll see a couple of entries in this particular folder, which is Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection. Step number 3 is to go ahead and check the event logs itself. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open Event Viewer, and then there are two different set of folders that you can refer to in terms of checking the information of the event logs related to onboarding itself. So for that, I'll go to Application and Service Logs, Microsoft, and then I'll go to Windows, and then there will be two different folders as I've said before. The first one is the Sense, and the other one is Sense IR. Now here Sense IR stands for Incident Response itself, the same process or the same concept that I've discussed when we were discussing about the process itself. Okay, so these are the two folders that you can refer to in terms of knowing what exactly is going on. Okay, now you will see multiple entries once the machine is onboarded. Okay, so now the next step is to go ahead and check the state of Sense service itself, right? And as you can see, this is Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection service, and as of now, it is not running. That's the reason itself why in the event logs, you don't see any logs for these two folders. Okay, it's that basic. Okay, now the next step is to go ahead and onboard the machine itself. So step number 4 is running the onboarding script. Now for that, what we have to do is we have to switch to our browser and then download the onboarding script. But before that, what you can see here is the list of all the onboarded machines currently. But if I talk about my current machine, which I will be onboarding, server-onboard-2019, is something which is not getting listed on the console itself. Okay, so to onboard, I'll follow the same typical process of going into onboarding section itself, and from there I will be downloading the local script by selecting 2019, 1803 or 2022. Okay, now once this package is downloaded, I'll copy this package to my server, and then I'll show you that what are the changes that are actually happening once this script gets completed. Okay, now I'm going to paste the package which we have just downloaded, and then I'll extract it. Now, before I go ahead and run this package, I would also like to show you a couple of details which are actually mentioned in the script itself. Okay, so for that, I'll just edit this script so that it should open in a notepad. And if you have some time, please go through this, because this is something which is going to give you a lot more insights in terms of knowing what exactly this script is going to do. Okay. Likewise, you can check your org ID details or the data center which has been selected for your MDE instance, to be very precise. Okay. Then, anything that this script is going to do is typically listed over here, and it is actually very descriptive. So if you scroll down more, you'll come to know what are the registry changes that are going to happen, or what is the purpose of a specific key altogether. Okay. Now, with that said, I'll close this, and now I'm going to open my command prompt. Now, this is already open with admin access. So I'll just clear the screen and I'll change the location. Let's go to that particular folder altogether. And then we'll run that script so that my machine can get onboarded to MDE. Okay. So as you can see, this is the same set of information which is mentioned in the script itself in the beginning. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. It's very descriptive. If you read it, you'll come to know. I'll just type Y. This is going to take a couple of minutes for this video. I've fast forwarded it. And as you can see, now it is showing me that the machine is successfully onboarded, and it is giving me a prompt, press any key to continue. So this is the end-to-end process of knowing the onboarding process. Okay. Now the last step is to go ahead and check verifying to be very precise, whether the sense service is running or not. And this is something that you should do after the onboarding. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the same command, which is scqc sense. Okay. To make sure whether this service on my machine is running or not. Okay. And as you can see, this particular service is actually running on my machine. That means what? Once the machine is onboarded, sense service will be running on that particular machine. Okay. And if you will refresh the event viewer, you'll see a couple of entries over here. To be very precise, all the different type of logs which are generated while the machine is getting onboarded will get listed over here. Now, just from a verification perspective, you can repeat step number 2 by going ahead and checking the same set of registries after the machine is onboarded. Okay. So I'll come back to my machine and I'll again go to registry editor and I'll just press a refresh and F5. And as you can see, multiple entries over here are populated, which are specifically related to Windows Defender ATP or MDE, to be very precise. And this onboarding info is actually the section which is copied end to end from the onboarding script itself. So this body section is mentioned as it is in your script, in your onboarding script that you will be downloading for your portal altogether. Okay. So the more you'll check the relative set of information, the more, concrete understanding you'll have. So now I'll come back to my browser, and as you can see, this particular server is getting listed over here. And if I'll give it some time, let's say a couple of minutes or a couple of hours, all the respective information will be captured and everything will be shown on the portal itself in terms of alerts, security recommendation, and whatnot. Okay. So this was all about knowing how the end-to-end onboarding process works for Windows servers, and what are the registry entries that you should go ahead and check, what are the basic set of event logs that you can check in terms of performing troubleshooting. In the next video, I'm going to talk about onboarding of Windows Server 2016. So if you think that this channel is helping you to learn anything new, please feel free to subscribe and share this video with your technical community. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.